Okay, hi everyone. Thank you for being here. This is our second meeting. Um, my name is Christian Caparoso, the president. For those who have been at our first meeting, we've already introduced most of the board. What we have planned today is a bit of a transfer fair that will be covering the UCs, the Cal States, and majors that are related to computer science, but aren't computer science exactly. Um, a couple announcements for events we have later on this month and next month. We're planning on having a Halloween themed event because our next meeting is 2 weeks from now. Or hold on. No, it's the 30th, right? We have one on the 16th and one on the 30th. Our 30th meeting will be Halloween themed. We'll have more details on that soon. In November, we will have a Discord bot competition, which will allow all of our members to compete to make a Discord bot, and the winner will have theirs become the official bot for our server. So we will have more details about both events later on, and we will make sure to let you guys know either on the Discord server, through email, or both. Is there anything else I missed, guys?
Game night.
Yeah. Later tonight, I mentioned in the email, we will be having our first social night. It'll be a game night where we will play games depending on what everyone wants to play. I know a large portion of people have talked about League, but I know that that game is pain and that not everyone will be interested. So we'll also play things like Among Us or maybe Jackbox or whatever else people are interested in. So other than that, I think we can hop right in. We're going to start with the social night will be later tonight, starting, I think we said
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock, right? It
I
could
can send
start a
an
little bit
announcement right
sooner, a little bit later. It's purely up to what everyone else is starting to join in, So like I said, we're going to start with the Cal States, then move into the UCs and end off with the other majors. And in between, if anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask the questions. We're all here to help and answer any questions you may have.
Okay, hi everyone. My name's Allison, and I'm presenting the Cal State CS Chancellors with Miriam. And
Hi.
next slide. Okay, so like an overview of the Cal States, there's like 23, and it's all available to like undergrad students, and there's a whole bunch of majors for each of the Cal States. But the best CSUs for CS generally are Sloan and Pomona because they rank pretty comparably to the UCs in CS and engineering. Also San Jose State because their location gives a lot of internship opportunities, which helps a lot of the students post-grad. And also Fullerton and Long Beach are pretty popular amongst IVC transfers, but there is a mix of opinions between them, so it is really what you make with it. And I think it's important to note that Cal State Long Beach is pretty impacted because every major in that campus is pretty impacted and they receive more applicants than they can admit. So just general tips for applying to a competitive Cal State or Long Beach is just to earn the highest GPA possible and to complete all the major prep courses, and also earning an associate degree for transfer, which Miriam will talk about later. And the minimum eligibility is to complete 60 units and also maintain at least a 2.0 in the Cal State transfer courses. But of course, you want a higher GPA to be considered for admission, especially for CS and engineering. Also, there's like 2 tracks for general eds. There's like at C and CSE general eds. And for the CSE general eds, it satisfies all the GE requirements and makes you eligible for associate degrees and CSU GE certification. Also, it just ensures that you don't really have to take any more O divisions at the Cal States. And you have to answer Jay's question, do Cal States have stats like UCs do? Like, do you mean like GPA stats or like the major stats?
So like the UCs, like they release all the stats for all the majors, like
Mhm.
what the GPA range is and how many people got accepted. So is there anything comparable to like Cal State's?
No, they don't have that. That would be super useful
Okay.
though, but they don't have that.
Okay.
And the next slide for I get C. You can also do I get C, and the only difference between the CSU, like the only primary difference between them is that for I get C, it requires students to take writing 2 for critical thinking, but then for CSU GEs, you can take, you have like more options for a critical thinking requirement. And just as a general tip, if you're not sure you want to go to a Cal State or a UC, if you're just like, oh, like, I don't know if you want to go to UC or Cal State, just do it against C because it makes you eligible for both UCs and Cal States and also like some private universities. So yeah, if you're like undecided, then we'd recommend you follow against C. And also for, it depends on the campus on your major, but generally for engineering and CS majors, you don't have to like complete I get C and the CSUGs, but you do have to complete the Golden Four. And the reason for that is because CS, STEM, engineering, there's like a whole lot of requirements for you to take before you transfer. So just like ease that, they don't really require you to like complete I get C or the Gs, but it is like dependent on the campus and major. But yeah, you do need to complete the Golden Four, which is like writing 1, which is like college writing, critical thinking, oral communication, also like mathematics and quantitative reasoning. And besides all those G's and the Golden Four, you should focus on your major prep. And to like view the major prep courses, you can visit assist.org. And it's super easy, super efficient. You just go on assist.org and enter in your school and the school you want to transfer to and your major. And then it will just provide you a list of courses that are like transferable. And yeah, it's pretty helpful. And some of it's like under construction. So you do want to like double check with the university website too. And also make sure to consult with a counselor.
Okay, so CSU transferable courses, as we said earlier, I think. So only courses numbered 1 through 199 are transferable. So as you can see, anything above that will not transfer. So keep that in mind. CSU spring admissions. So not all CSUs are open for spring admissions. Make sure a CSU may open for spring admissions, but exclude certain majors. So make sure your major's in there. And Golden Four courses must be completed by the end of their last summer term. And we have a link down here that you can double check anything if you're considering a spring or a winter transfer. So differences between UCs and CSUs. UCs are research and theory oriented, but Cal State's focus on teaching and practical hands-on experience and application. Campuses are community oriented through accessible internships, and students are well prepared for the workplace. So transfer requirements, you can kind of look at this chart. CSUs are minimum GPA of 2.0, but it's definitely, as Allison said, dependent on the campus. So make sure you want to get that as high as possible. UCs have a higher minimum GPA of 2.8, but again, check with your campus. And obviously, like schools like UCLA or UC Berkeley want, like ideally, a 4.0. So the application process. So if you want to go in during fall 2021, these are the dates. And spring 2021, those are the dates over there. We're going to share the slides, so if you missed anything, you can always check back. And one common question is, can you be guaranteed admission to a CSU? And you can, but make sure your major concentration participates in this associate degrees for transfer program, and it's available at the school you want. And you can find more information under IVC's Transfer Center, the Transfer and Guaranteed Admissions page. And IVC has 26 of those degrees, but again, make sure it's the right major and right school, and they have a tool that tells you whether they are. And finally, anything that'll help you meet with like campus representatives. Like sometimes counselors aren't the best, but they are helpful to meet with to get like a basic understanding. And you'll have us to ask questions with, and yeah. So that's it for the CalStates.
Okay, thank you, Miriam and Allison. So, like they said, these slides, all of them, which are, Cal State's UCs and the other majors, will be available for all of you to look through. And like they touched on, you guys are free at any point throughout this semester to ask us any questions that you may have if you don't want to ask them right now. So next we're going to have the UCs. So Omar and Alex.
All right, so me and Alex will be covering the UC admissions. Pretty, I guess, probably the most popular, I guess, in terms of like how many people want to go there. So yeah, there are 9 UC campuses. We're going to be going over each one and like the different majors you can apply for each one, because as you guys probably know, there's a bunch of different majors that you could apply for other than CS. That are also like different concentrations that will also be talked about in the next kind of like presentation for the alternate majors. But yeah, let's get started.
Yes, so there's a general UC requirements. So it's just like CSU, you have to complete 60 transferable units by the end of the spring semester if you're applying for fall semester. And then to be considered for admission, you either have to have 2.04 or 2.8 GPA. But obviously, if you want to be competitive, like you have to have a higher GPA. In terms of GE, most UCs only require the 7-course pattern, but that depends on your major requirements. And there's also IVC that's available for you to do, which is another Gen Ed courses pattern, but most UCs don't actually want you to complete it because they want you to save some space to mix up your CS and math classes with Gen Ed classes. So to find that out, it's better to email UC admission, like the campus that you want to go to directly, to find out if they want you to complete IVC or not.
Yeah, it honestly just depends on like where your major is basically like the college it's held in, and we'll be going over that more in like the next couple slides.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh yeah. So assist, basically as mentioned previously in the Cal State one, assist should be kind of seen as your personal class guide. You should treat it as like I guess your personal handbook in a sense. Basically what assist does, it tells you, outlines all the courses that you need to be taking for your major and to prepare for it and prepare for transfer. And they have, a lot of very important statements in there, such as like when you need to complete these courses by, what kind of grades you need to have for these courses. As we'll probably know, or most of us know, the assist hasn't really been updated in the past couple of years. So people have been relying on like the older agreements, such as like 2016 to 2017. But as of now, all of them have been updated for 2019 to 2020. So you can go check those out now for the newest agreements. And 2020, 2021, some of the UCs will have them, but most of them are not. And actually, I just talked to a UC admissions counselor a couple of days ago, and they are not going to be going off the 2020 to 2021 for this cycle. So you just follow 2019 to 2020. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So follow assist for whatever majors you're planning to apply for, and make sure, if you're considering alternate majors, that you also are, fulfilling all the requirements for that one as well, right? As CS majors, probably most common alternate majors include like applied math, math of computation, data science, stuff like that. So just make sure you're hitting all the requirements you need to be hitting. And if you ever find like an error or like missing classes in a specific year, you can refer to the previous years as a general guideline, but also make sure that you consult the admissions officer of the specific school so that you actually know what you need to take for sure.
Yeah, and it's always good to email the admission officers directly, because sometimes even if you're not hitting like all the requirements, they might like tell you to do something else, if that's like a specific case that they will want to work with. So for example, I had that when I didn't take science courses, and the UCSD allowed me to like just like not take it because they liked my application. So always good to email, even if you're not meeting like all of the assist courses.
Yep. Right.
So the CS classes at IVC are pretty strong, but to be honest, if you are planning on going to UCI, it's better to take CS classes at Saddleback because they're generally like better transferring than IVC ones, and their sequence is like more similar to UCI than IVC's one. And if you're taking IVC classes, it's always better to take the ones that are more popular, like towards the school that you want to go to. So like, for example, like don't take CS like 1, 30, 50 if you're planning to transfer to UCs, because most of them don't transfer and it's not required. So, and the material is not really useful for what you're going to learn at UCs. But on the other hand, like CS37, CS41 are really popular courses that are stated in almost all of the UC requirements. So it's better to look at it and take it like first. And also for UCI, it's very important. You have to take CS37, then CS41, and then CS10 in the sequence, even though they don't have any like link between them, like they're not linked, but you still have to take them in sequence because UCI, I think they want to see your grade or something. So it's better to take them in sequence if you don't want to take the placement test once you transfer.
Okay. Yeah. So other than that, so 31 is also the database class, which is taught in SQL. So we found out that in spring 2020, the last semester, full semester, IVC is considering making a data science certificate, and that's going to include like CS31. They're going to make a new statistical programming class in R, and we're not sure how like that's going so far, but we just know that IVC is keeping it in the works. So if you're ever interested in like data science certificate, you can always take CS31. It's pretty good, from what I've heard. But in general, also just you should know that at IVC specifically, your math and physics classes will be harder than your CS classes by far. Yeah, so just keep that in mind when you take all your CS classes. And it's always good to, you know, as general rule of thumb, just take everything at IVC because you can pretty much stack all the CS classes pretty quickly and get through most of them pretty fast.
Oh, it's a good point that Jay Makwana brought out, that CS1 is required for an Associates of Science in Computer Science. So yes, if you want to get an associate's degree, then CS1 is a must. But also, if you want an Associates of Arts, then you take Communication 1. Just wanted to point that out.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to be diving into like each specific school and their admit rates. All of this data we pulled off the public website, which is basically just everyone refers to it as transfers by major. Every year, the UC publishes all their admission data and statistics for every single major and every single school. So if you're ever interested about a specific major, what school you want to transfer to, and like what all the statistics were for it, you can always hit up this website, and it's sort of through that, I guess, spreadsheet, I guess that you could call it. So for Berkeley, I guess the 4 most common majors that are like associated with computer science are obviously, I'm just going through them one by one. So CS is first, is pure CS. This is held in the College of Letters and Science at Berkeley, and it's a Bachelor of Arts. And you guys can see the GPA range, the applicants and admit rates. So obviously, you know, Berkeley is Berkeley, so the admit rates is really competitive. It's 5% only. Keep in mind too that for computer science, pure computer science, and because it's held in the College of Letters and Science at Berkeley, you are not admitted directly to your major. You're going to be, if you get accepted as computer science, you'll be considered as like intended computer science, which means that you still have to complete the 3 prerequisite classes before you can actually declare your major at Berkeley, meaning that you have to take CS61A, CS61B, and CS70, and you have to maintain a 3.3 or above in those 3 classes. And if you don't, then you have to declare another major. But if you do, you'll be declared computer science. So just keep that in mind if you want to apply for pure computer science. For electrical engineering computer science, that's held in the College of Engineering and is a Bachelor of Science. The GPA range is obviously, you know, higher than pure CS, and there's a bunch more applicants, and the admit rate is pretty similar, but also, you know, can be tough at the same time. Besides that though, electrical engineering, computer science, we can refer to as EECS. EECS is different in the fact that you are directly admitted to your major. So if you apply as EECS, you get in, you are directly in EECS. You don't have to take any prerequisites for a certain amount of GPA or anything. You can just directly go and get started through your classes. Yeah, obviously most commonly other applied majors are applied math. I think that's like a most common like alternate that a lot of CS majors take, because applied math is pretty applicable to the CS field, and it's, even though like your coursework might be a little bit different and more towards the mathy side, you'll still be able to take a lot of CS classes and get that experience needed. And then data science. So data science is actually really new at Berkeley. It just started last year, I believe. So there haven't been any like admission statistics, because everyone that just got accepted, like it was like the first cohort. So there's nothing about that yet, but you can definitely apply for it if you're applying this cycle from now. So yeah, that's an important thing to consider.
So for UCLA, its situation is similar as Berkeley. Computer science is very competitive major, and it only admits 5% of the applicants.
That should be 8%. My bad.
Well, yeah, I'm sure
Yeah.
it's lower this year because the data is.
No, computer engineering, that should not be 58. That's my bad.
Yeah, computer engineering was like around.
That's supposed to be 10. I don't know why, right? Oh yeah.
It wasn't that big, but
yeah, it's not 58%. It's not.
I mean,
58%.
if you can see from
Yeah,
applicants like and admits like it's low, it's low. However, math of computations has a pretty good admit rate compared to others, and the requirements for math of computation is pretty similar to computer science or computer engineering. So definitely recommend that one if you want to like have a backup major to apply to UCLA. And then data theory is a new one, just like data science at UC Berkeley. So there's no data yet, but I think it's a good chance to like be first to explore it and start it and see.
Yeah, so data theory is brand new at UCLA. It just started this year. And obviously, in terms of like if you want to do computer science, computer engineering, if you're more interested in the hardware side of things, do computer science or engineering. If you're interested in the software side of things, do computer science. And if you're interested in the mixture between both and how they relate to each other, you can always do CSE, which is a combination of them.
Yeah, and math of computation is just pure math with algorithms and stuff like that. But you can take electives, so it's fun.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Yeah, I don't know why it didn't come up on the spreadsheet when I searched for it, but okay, that's cool. So Dan's saying in the chat that UCLA has a 3.7 to 4.0 range and 114 applicants and 54% got accepted. So that's pretty good acceptance rate, even though the range. Okay, that makes sense. Oh, really? Already?
Probably happened recently before we did it.
Oh, you went to the UCLA site. Okay. Yeah, because we got this from the UC website, like the general one. Okay. All right, that's cool. Okay, so UCI. So UCI is probably the most popular UC to apply for from IVC students. Unfortunately, UCI doesn't accept tag anymore for computer science, so you have to apply it as normal admission. So computer science, obviously you guys can see their range here. And UCI is probably, I'm pretty sure they're the most popular UC now in terms of computer science applicants for transfers. So they had 2,000 applicants last year, and the admit rate was around 28%, which is still like pretty good. It's not bad, but I'm sure that in the coming years, it'll definitely get harder as we go on. So make sure if you're planning to go to UCI, you can, yeah, UCI does have tag for computer engineering. That's true. Yeah. And, but for computer science though, you have to just go through it as normally.
If you have a 3.7 GPA,
yeah, we're going to talk about that in the later slides. For computer game science, obviously that's a pretty important one too. I think a lot of people are interested in that. That's also another option you guys can do. And then UCI has a bunch of like, like alternate related majors, such as like software engineering, which is basically just CS, but like they focus entirely or like not entirely, but a lot of it since focus on like the most applicable parts of it, right? You're not necessarily focused that much on like the theory and stuff like that. And informatics, which is like another alternate major where you basically it's just a UI UX, like how you can apply this to different fields such as bioinformatics and stuff like that. So if you're interested in those other fields, or you feel like as if you're not that competitive for just computer science straight, then you can always apply for these other alternate majors. And yeah, as Jay mentioned, there are honors agreements in place for UCI and UCLA as well, and we'll be mentioning that towards the end of the presentation.
So when it comes to UC San Diego, you can see that computer science is very competitive again, and it has low admit rate, but it's not the case for computer engineering or math computer science, which have generally higher admission rates and are just generally easier to get in. Oh, I think one thing we forgot to mention is that for most UCs, when you transfer, you might have to you might have to be there for 3 years, not 2 years, which is the case for UCI for sure, because they want you to retake some of their classes. But and that's the case for UC San Diego too, because I talked to admission consultants about it, and they told me like, yeah, most students have to be there for 3 years. So if that's important to you, you should definitely ask them too. Yeah, and that's about it.
Yeah, also for CS, I don't know why it says 5. It's supposed to be 18, but yeah, CS at USCSD is 18% admit rate for last year. So it's not as competitive as Berkeley and LA, but it's definitely, you know, still like a decently, I guess, competitive school.
I think
yeah,
it was less this year. It's definitely less.
Yeah, it's probably. I mean, I'm pretty sure everything is less, except for like Berkeley and LA. They just remain the same at the, like around 5%. But yeah, otherwise alternate majors, computer engineering, and there's also a math and computer science like joint major, and that's like, I think it's more focused on like theory, and like it's more of like a math of computation thing similar to UCLA. So if you're interested in that, you can also check that out.
Yes, you can take the placement exam at UCI if that's what you're referring to. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
can take
you're
the
talking about
placement
yeah.
exam, but I think you have to take a multiple.
You do, yeah. So if you
placement
take it from
exams.
if you want to transfer to from IVC to UCI, and you're only taking CS classes at IVC, you have to take 37, 41, and 10 in that specific order, which is the dumbest thing ever. No one even knows why they even did that, right? I mean, we have an idea, but it's not like confirmed or anything. But yeah, you have to take, if you want to like pass like the classes at, for example, that sequence of 3 classes, which is 37, 41, 10, those only satisfy the first 2 classes at UCI, which are ICS 31 and 32. And that means you have to take the placement exam for 33, and which is like, you know, I think it's the final one, like it's like the final one for Python. It's like software libraries engineering or something like that, right? Otherwise, yeah, you can also take the C++ exam, also the Java exam, which are ICS 45C and ICS 45J respectively. But yeah, otherwise, other than that, like most people who transfer from UCI, from IVC to UCI, they're considered like second years in terms of like where they are for their CS coursework, not juniors or third years.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind if you're transferring from IVC. But if you come from Saddleback and take all the CS classes there, you'll be pretty much on pace normally as everyone else. So just keep that in mind if you want to do that. But if you feel like your skills are fine, like I'm sure people who have taken the Python classes and like the C++ classes here, they know like, yeah, exactly. But if you know your skills are fine, and like, you know, like, because the C++ and Python classes here are kind of easy, and you're confident in your skills, like the placement exam shouldn't be hard at all. Like you can just pretty much just breeze through them if you're good. So yeah. So UCSB, as I said before, UCSB also getting pretty competitive as well. They have 7% admit rate for CS last year. And so basically like they're like kind of like they're like on similar terms of a UCI, where like they're kind of like both on the uprise. So obviously you can see the GPA range is also 3.87 to 4. So basically at like the top, like the first 6 UCs, you'll basically need to have a 4 to be competitive, or at least with like a 3.9. So just keep that in mind and just try to aim for the highest GPA possible. Also, computer engineering is also always available option. And there's also, for UCSB, stats and data science. Although I've heard that it's more focused on stats and not so much as data science, like there's not really that many programming classes. But keep in mind that for stats and data science at UCSB, you can tag to that. So you can't tag to anything in college engineering, which includes computer science, computer engineering. But since stats and data science is under the College of Letters and Science, I believe, you can tag to that if you're interested in that, or if you want to have like a guarantee for that somewhere at least.
So for UC Davis, it's a little bit better. It's similar to UCI. So computer science admission rate is 20%. Engineering is around the same. And then CS and engineering is lower than that. But as you can see, the GPA range is not as bad as it is for like other UCs, so it might be worth a shot. And I think it's worth mentioning that for computer engineering, you most likely have to take physics classes at IVC. And physics classes are generally like pretty difficult. And they can make your life hard. They can lower your GPA. That's what counselors can tell you actually if you meet with them. So I think it's worth, and also it's a lot of classes, so you might have to take this sequence like over 3 years to be able to transfer and meet the requirements for like UCLA, computer science program and stuff like that, computer engineering, I mean. So I was thinking it's pretty good to like plan out like applying for computer science after 2 years, and then if it doesn't work out and you still want to go to UC, you can complete the physics sequence and then go to computer engineering, which has higher admission rate and is easier to get in.
Yeah, so one thing I'll note is that UC Davis does have tag for computer science. So if let's say, you don't think you're going to be that competitive for like, let's say UCSB or like UCI or like, Berkeley or LA, you can always just tag to Davis. Davis has a tag there. Your GPA is a little bit higher than the normal tag. It's 3.5 instead. And you have to at least have up to Calc 3 done in terms of math. And you have to have, I think the equivalent at IVC, you have to have at least CS6A, CS40A, and data structure CS41 and CS37 done by the end of fall, and you'll have guaranteed admission to UC Davis. So just keep that in mind. Even though the GPA range might seem a little high, a lot of people can just tag the Davis for CS. But keep in mind that there are additional major requirements because they're the only not the only, but like since they are the only people that like require or not, they allow CS for tag, and that's why they have to have a higher GPA range and additional requirements. Also, Riverside has CS for tag, and Santa Cruz.
Merced and Santa Cruz, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But going off what they're talking about physics before, if you just look at the UCs, and if you can see like which college that computer science is held under, you can generally tell whether or not you need to take physics. For example, if let's say UC Berkeley, for example, because that's probably it's the easiest example. If you're applying for pure CS at Berkeley, since it's under the College of Letters and Science, you don't have to take physics. It's not required at all. You don't have to take physics even when you transfer there if you're under that major. But if you apply for EECS, electrical engineering, computer science, that's under the College of Engineering, and you are required to take physics before you even come here, or before you even go there, right? So just keep that in mind. And whenever if you look at your different schools you're applying to, just make sure you can tell whether or not CS is under the College of Engineering or not, because if it is under the College of Engineering, you'll have to take physics. So just keep that in mind. And some of the UCs actually, you don't have to take the full entire physics sequence. They might have you might just have to take 4A and 4B here, and 4C might be like an optional or like an additional requirement, but some of them only want 4A and 4B. So just keep that in mind. But it's generally best to just take the entire sequence, because then at that point you can apply to all the UCs, because most of them actually have computer science out of the College of Engineering.
But also it's really hard physics,
yeah,
so
true.
be mindful.
4A is notoriously known to be the GPA killer, so just be wary of that.
That's why it's lower on the I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that's why it's lower.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm doing this one, right? Yeah, okay. So use Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz as Davis, also you can tag the Santa Cruz for CS. So I believe their GPA range is the same as any other one, which is a 3.4. So you can find everything like the specifics of what they want and everything on their specific tag website, but generally they'll be this like similar as like what you'll follow on Assist. A program that Santa Cruz is actually pretty popular for is their computer game design program. So if any of you are interested in, game design, game dev, then you can definitely consider Santa Cruz as like one of your top schools for that. Because I think Santa Cruz and UCI are the only two UCs that offer like a game design program, if I remember correctly. So yeah, definitely consider either of those.
Yeah, and UC Santa Cruz has tag, so
Yeah.
that's a good opportunity if you want to do that. And it's not that competitive, like they only want 3.0 or above for tag for CS.
Yeah, 3.4, I think. Yeah. Okay.
So for UC Riverside, as you know, it's also a really popular choice for people who want to transfer from IVC because it's relatively close, just like UCI. And for computer science, it's not that competitive. Admission rate is 42%, and GPA range is 3.1 to 3.7. For computer engineering, it's even less competitive, but admission rate is actually a little lower. And as you can see, not as many people apply, so it's not as big as computer science.
Yeah,
And they do have tag as well. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then finally, UC Merced. Yeah, it's UC Merced, but you can tag the UC Merced. So I mean, like I don't, you don't really need a tag for it. Assuming you have the tag GPA, you can get in as well anyway, right? Like the GPA range is only 2.96 to 3.62. Even though their admit rate might seem like not as high as it, like let's say UCR for example had 42. You will most likely get in as long as you have like within like the tag GPA, and then at that point you can just tag to it if you're that concerned with it. But yeah, that's Merced. And Merced, also keep in mind, they don't have like a separate program for CS and CS or CE, so they just consolidate it into one CSE. Yeah, that's true. All right. Yeah, do you want to talk about this one? Yeah.
So the IVC Honors Program is a really good opportunity for you to stand out on your application, to just be more involved. I'm an honors program, and it gives you priority registration to classes. It gives you more like opportunities. Well, not right now, but it gave you more opportunities to meet people that are also in honors program, and you can be invited into like honors societies that are around the campus. And by joining the honors program, you will gain access to multiple benefits for transferring, such as like priority admission, good application, and stuff like that. To be able to finish the honors program, you have to take 5 honors courses from 3 different areas and have maintained 3.25 or above for these classes. And at the end, you have to submit a portfolio with like the material that you learned from the honors classes and all of the like, you're gonna create like your own experience from it, like just highlight like what you learned, what you did, and things like that. So there is UCLA's TAP and UCI Honors to Honors that are offered for you if you're in honors program. And for UCI Honors to Honors, you have to maintain a GPA 3.5 and above to be able to transfer to the honors program at UCI. And once you do transfer, there's only 1 course or 2 courses you need to take to satisfy the honors at UCI. So it's relatively easy and a good pathway. And obviously you're gonna have like a much higher admission rate, which I heard was almost 100 for the past couple of years to computer science or any other competitive major you might want to go, like computer engineering. And yeah, I think it's a good opportunity, and it's free to join the honors program.
Yeah. So okay, yeah, basically that. Anyway, and also like if you're not interested, let's say in other like schools, like private schools, for example, there are a bunch of other like IVC has a bunch of like transfer agreements with private schools as well. There's a whole list of them. I don't remember like most of them, but if you're interested in like some private schools, obviously they're not like the top private schools like Ivy Leagues or like Stanford or stuff like that. So like but just keep in mind that you also have like, yeah, Chapman University is definitely one of them. Yeah. So I know that for a fact, but yeah, there's a bunch of other private universities. So if you're also interested in that, those can also be transfer agreements. And keep in mind, those agreements are totally separate from the UC tag and TAP and all that stuff like that. So you can
Mhm.
submit like multiple guarantees to like multiple different schools from different like systems, I guess you could call it.
And in general, like for general admissions, you're also going to stand out. So it's a good opportunity. And you can be invited into Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society. That is an honor society for community colleges. It's kind of
Yeah,
like
I
Greek,
don't.
but it's like
But the thing
business
is, like, I
Greek.
don't think Phi Theta Kappa is really that like. It's not like I don't think it's really that great because, in my opinion, right? Because the threshold to join is just a 3.5, and
Yes.
a majority of college students, at least in CC, will have like a three around that GPA range, right? So like, even though like I know they toot it as like like you have like great opportunities and stuff like that.
Well,
I
they
got like
mentioned it's 10% of the students, so I think it's pretty
yeah, but
good.
like I feel like that's only the people that joined though, right? I mean, like, I don't know, but like I know like everyone's been getting spam emails from them. I know I have.
Mhm.
Everyone else is this past like couple weeks or month, whatever it is. But yeah, I don't think it doesn't really matter that much. But no, they're not whack. They're definitely reputable source. But if you want to join them, go ahead. I just didn't think it was really that great. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, that's like the only thing I would get. Like, I didn't feel like it was worth paying $95, whatever it
They
is.
do help you
Just
with some stuff on your application, and like they
yeah,
provide some community service like experiences and things like that, which is obviously not applicable during the coronavirus. So keep in mind that you can't really do like community service or anything like that right now.
yeah. I mean, like
But
yeah,
you can meet
it's
the
yeah.
members and you can like put that on your application, I guess.
Yeah, it's like
So
it's definitely a um any other sides worth joining. Well, I'm sure there are some out there, but I think Phi Theta Kappa is the one everyone knows here. And
Mhm.
yeah, Phi Theta Kappa is like really yeah, it's good. It's like if you want to join it, go ahead. By all means, join it. It's just in my opinion, I didn't really think it was that like helpful to me, right? Um, especially in this social climate, and all that stuff right now. But
yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
basically. So anyway, we're gonna just go over the really quick for like the honors like agreements we have with other UCs from IVC. So obviously UCLA TAP is a really important one, but it requires a 3.5 minimum cumulative UC transfer GPA and a 3.5 honors GPA, which you should have anyways if you're going to complete the honors program. But the big thing about UCLA TAP is that you cannot actually let me go over what a UCLA TAP actually does first. UCLA TAP gives you priority consideration for the major you're applying for at UCLA, and also gives you like priority consideration for like honors program at UCLA and stuff like that, right? It's basically like applicants, or what do you call it, admission officers will see your application earlier than the whole like general pool of applicants, right? So you might have like a better like chance. Actually, most people do actually have a better chance of getting in from that, right? I think the IVC honors program states like the admission rates for like honor students is like 80% higher than non-honor students, right? So anyway, but the most important thing to note about TAP is that it is not applicable to CS or CSE or like the CS majors. This is because obviously, as we all know, UCLA is one of the top public schools in the nation. It's really competitive to get into. It has a 5% acceptance rate for CS. So like you're really not gonna they're not really gonna give you priority consideration for CS considering how competitive it is. So like, but the good thing about TAP is that you can actually put a secondary major and it'll give you like a backup plan. It's kind of like a backup plan in a sense, right? And you can put like the alternate majors. Like so some of the alternate majors can get TAP privileges such as like applied mathematics of computation, or data theory, right? All of these are still, qualified for TAP. So just keep in mind that let's say, even if you don't get considered for CS, which might be your primary major, you can still get considered for your alternate major and you'll get TAP privileges with that major as well. So yeah, just something to keep in mind. So if you're basically like, you can think of that secondary major as like I guess last gambit if you really want to go to UCLA, right? And it doesn't necessarily have to be applied mathematics or mathematics computation or like that. It's just that we're just providing those as like common alternate CS majors. Yeah. Applied math is probably one of the best. I also heard though UCLA mathematics computation program is really good though too, and that's more so tied in with CS than applied mathematics is, at least at UCLA. So just keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, so UCI honors to honors and transfer honors. So to be able to join UCI as an honors UCI's honors program, you have to have 3.7 or above GPA by the end of the fall semester. So which means like a semester before you transfer. And that gives you priority consideration for UCI admission for any major you wish. And that grants you more opportunities for scholarship as well. It's not really automatic admission, but it's really high chance. I heard it fluctuated a lot, like in different years it's different, but it's definitely higher than regular one. And it has guaranteed housing and priority registration and all of those perks. And it also has a society that you can like communicate with, take like honors classes with more like motivated and dreaming people around you at UCI. So yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, and then that's honors to honors, and also there's transfer honors, where if you don't necessarily meet that requirement of 3.7 plus and you're still within the vein of 3.25 to 3.69, you can still apply as a regular transfer honors, and they're still as good as, or they're still as like a good like transfer honors system, but they're not as strong as honors to honors. So if you're planning to transfer to UCI and you want that special consideration and like the higher admission rate, definitely try to aim for that honors to honors 3.7 plus GPA. But transfer honors is not bad at either. You still get priority consideration. It's just not as like so-called guaranteed as honesty honors.
Yeah, like I don't think UCI allows you to change your major once you like get in as a business. I don't think it's an option to be able to change it to engineering school or computer science.
Yeah, yeah. Something to keep
because-
in mind for most UCs, as a transfer, you are not allowed to change your major after you transfer. That's like one of the big things. Because the problem is that, especially with CS or like, you know, these really heavy STEM majors with so much major preparation, is that there are so many classes that you have to take even after transferring that they don't really, you can change your major only if you're admitted to letters of science. If you're, yeah, if you, that's true. At Berkeley, if you apply for pure CS and you get in, actually you can even apply at Berkeley. There's a strategy where you can apply at Berkeley for like an easier major, let's say like math or something like that, or applied math, whatever, and you get in, you can switch to CS there if you take the necessary prerequisites and still make it. But the problem is that you won't have priority registration for those classes because you're not intended CS. So you might, it's like a gamble whether or not you get those classes. And at UC Berkeley as well, they have a thing where like you're required to like to declare your major within a certain time frame, right? So if at Berkeley, for example, you have to take 3 classes for CS to declare your major, and you might not necessarily get those 3 classes within that time frame, right? And then you're stuck with being math. So it's kind of a gamble, right? How do the dropout of CS change the business? What do you mean by that, Bryant? Oh, is that like a certain school you're talking about? UCLA. Okay. Was he a transfer or was he just a like admitted frosh?
Oh, well, business is not an engineering or
Yeah,
computer science
yeah.
school, so you
that,
can
yeah.
switch to that. But
Especially if you're admitted frosh too, you still have like the entire whatever, let's say 3 years at that point. If you took a year for CS or right, like
Mhm.
especially if you're admitted earlier, it's just that transfers have such a like time restraint on them to graduate within a certain amount of years, like that. It's just not feasible for that, right? And like as you can see, like especially for the UCs that have CS under their college of engineering, they will not allow you to change majors. Like I know for a fact Berkeley EECS does not allow you, UCLA does not allow you. Yeah, that's a really good point, Sia. A lot of people just do business and minor in CS. As I said, like even if you're not necessarily focused entirely on CS, CS is always good to have like a minor in, or at least like within that vein, because it's a really, 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 like fast growing field. Like it's going to be like pretty much everywhere. It already is basically, but within the coming years, it's going to be in everywhere. Like I'm sure like almost every single like STEM major is going to have to take programming class at some point or another. Like most of them already do, right? Or just in general, like CS theory, stuff like that. So yeah.
Yes.
And yeah, that wraps up the UCA presentation. So if you guys have any questions, you guys can drop them in the chat. Otherwise, we're gonna go to the next, what do you call it, presentation. And I'll be answering the questions in chat if you have any of them.
Yeah, thank you, Alex and Omar. Jay, I think you're up now.
Okay, so now we're moving on to topics about taking alternatives to CS. As we mentioned earlier, you might find that you still like to stay in the realm of programming, coding, and whatnot, but you may have difficulties along the way. A lot of us talked about physics, so I'll bring up some alternatives to that. And as we mentioned earlier, there's a lot of software engineering and a lot of data related alternative majors in UCs and Cal States, and specifically in the UCs. And before I jump into one particular example of an alternate major in the UCs, something to note is that many of us probably know that computer science is really broad, and as such, you can see that being reflected by the variety of schools that CS is listed in. So as Omar pointed out, even in Berkeley, there's 2 different variations of computer science, one for EECS, which can get much more heavy into physics and electronics. And then you'll have the College of Letters and Sciences, where you don't have as much of a physics requirement. And you might even bleed into other subjects that aren't quite CS, such as cognitive science, I believe. And then finally, in some schools, such as UCI, you might even find a dedicated school of computer science. And let's even take a look at that right now. So you can see here that in UCI's dedicated school of computer science, you have obviously CS, and then informatics, we'll touch on that a lot more, and statistics. And yeah, and this can be very handy because there will be a lot of different requirements involved in informatics and statistics. So for example, if we see here in the assist, you'll see that there's very few math requirements here, except maybe statistics and CS6B. So for those who struggled in the math side of computer science, this might be something to look at. And also here, although the GPA range of the applicants who are accepted are higher, the minimum requirement is still a lot lower than computer science. So in case you're struggling, this is one other option you could take. And then the Cal States, there's a similar story, and you'll have other subjects such as game design, cybersecurity, but the main thing with the Cal States is there are a lot of the computer science classes that you'll take in CS still bleed over into these subjects. So it's essentially that means you're still in CS, but you have a more specialized field of knowledge. And some of the more popular alternatives, earlier we touched on applied math a lot. Now keep in mind, if you're going to go into applied math, unless you start building projects on your own, you're not going to do a lot of coding into the classes, but instead you'll have a lot more problem solving and abstract thinking. So anyone who's taken CS6B, you might remember about graph theory or like big O notation. You'll be thinking a lot more about that. And then another subject that we've been hearing a lot from people is cybersecurity. And well, there's a bit of computer science involved, and as we'll see later in informatics, there are some classes on cybersecurity. It's rare that you'd find a dedicated degree in cybersecurity. Usually, if you might find out more about, you might end up taking cybersecurity classes in IT or informatics. And finally, one thing I want to bring up is for some people, and this is not for everyone, this is for very special case, you might be into computer science, but also into another field, like let's say business. And so, it, depending on how you feel about your programming ability and such, you might choose instead to just minor in computer science instead, or you might have to look into the specializations, because sometimes in the computer science you'll find that some schools list what they call specializations, where you go a very specific path. So if we look here in informatics, for example, we would find there's even 4 specializations involved. So for example, here, human computer interaction, anyone who's into web design or UI elements, this is where you'd fit in. For those who are more business minded and maybe into the hacker area, you have the organization and IT route. And then finally, for the biology and health people, you have the health informatics side right here. And of course, UCI here, and maybe other schools as well, lets you choose among the list of classes that fit into CS or informatics, or even other departments, what classes you take, so you have a curriculum that's more fit for your own needs. But otherwise, all I can really say is, if you are going down this path of taking another alternative major, then you have to really look deeply into the curriculum of all these other departments, and as well as looking into the assist.orgs to see what are the requirements and see where you fit in with that criteria. But otherwise, is there something else the board like to bring up as well?
Thank you, Jay, for that. So thank you everyone for being here and just participating with the questions in the chat and stuff. We'll stick around a little bit more if you guys have more questions. Feel free to either talk through the chat or through your mic. It's fine. Just a quick recap for the events that we have planned. Next month, we will have a programming competition just to build a Discord bot, and the winner will have their bot be the official bot for our Discord server. Our second meeting of the month, so I guess third technically, since today is our first meeting of the month, will be on the 30th, so we'll have a Halloween themed event. More details on both of those will be presented later on. I'm trying to think what else. Interviews for board have been going on throughout this week. For those people who did apply for board, we'll be finishing up next week, and we will announce decisions for that by the end of next week. Other than that, one more thing, we will be having all of the links to the PowerPoints alongside a recording of this in the meeting summary that is emailed to you, also in the Discord text channel called Meetings. So if you ever want to refer back to those slides to look at any of the information or just rewatch this, feel free to do that. Other than that, do any of the other board meetings like to say anything else?
Nolan, you want to go ahead and say what you want to say?
Yeah, cool. Hey guys, I'm Nolan. I posted a couple times in the Discord about Vanderbilt's hackathon happening today and over the weekend. So VandyHacks, their dev post is still open if you want to sign up. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because they have really big speakers today. They have Jeff Rothschild, who is his net worth is $3.5 billion. He is one of the software engineers, the original software engineers for Facebook. He also worked at Honeywell and Intel. And he's a part of Vanderbilt's alumni and their board. So I really recommend that you come tonight. You don't even have to sign up. It starts at 6 p.m. Central Time, which is 4. It's on Twitch. It'll be on twitch.tv/VandyHacks. And following that, they're going to have a bunch of beginner-friendly workshops. So even if you're a first year or whatever, you can go ahead and go. They'll teach you about Python, teach you how to create something open source. There's a bunch of stuff going on. There's a bunch of sponsors for this event. I definitely recommend it. Google Cloud's going to be there, Microsoft, GitHub, a bunch of these sponsors are going to be at the event. So if you're free today, I highly recommend that you go. It's really big. I'm personally participating, and I hope to submit a project. And if you're able to sign up within the next hour or two, you would be able to submit a project as well. So I highly suggest that you guys at least look at it.
Is it like a group thing or is it an individual thing?
It can be group. So I'm working with Alex currently.
Hey.
Yeah, Alex is in my group. We're creating a project, and then we have 2 other students from across the country. But if you are wanting to create a group, I definitely suggest that you guys talk about it in the club Discord and try and get something together.
I know they had that raffle thingy where you could just like go and they'll assign you to like teammates there quickly. So I'm sure they're gonna have something like that more.
All right, sounds good.
What are you guys building at the hackathon?
We're making an augmented reality app.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Which is like also a game. So
yeah,
Unity or
yes,
oh no.
Unity.
Unity.
Mhm.
AR. So
The
are you just
theme
gonna, like,
is retro, so
are you gonna like project it through the phone or like?
Yeah, it's all Android's file system. I've deployed an APK for it, and so far it's pretty cool. It deploys a little portal to a retro world.
Cool.
mhm.
Awesome. Is there gonna be merch at Bandy Hacks?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Now I might be coming.
Doesn't ship overseas though, so there's that.
No, only within the United States. So.
Okay, well I'm in the U.S., so that's all that matters. I need more merch, man.
If you guys want, you can Discord DM me for any information. I'd be happy to post it in general. If the board permits me, I'll post something there really quick that has everything.
Yeah,
for
go
today.
for it, dude.
Okay.
Wait a minute. You're the president, and the board has to permit you?
No, I'm not the president. No, I'm not even on the board.
Oh crap!
No, I'm just some random guy in the club right
Damn,
now.
really out here with that identity
You
theft.
just took it from you, Christian.
Yeah.
My bad. We're both kind of like deep voice monotone a bit.
You sounded very similar for a second. Sorry about that.
I
just
think
posted in
for
general.
Austin, you know, like all these hackathons, you know, like I read Vandy Hack's page for it. You know, majority of the hackathons, the school hackathons especially, they're open to everyone of all skill levels. You know, you don't necessarily have to be like the next like Bill Gates or something, right? I know people that have like had no.
I don't know.
I've had like people who are like had like no coding experience whatsoever, or like no teamwork and like experience whatsoever, and they went to hackathons and stuff like that and they did fine. Honestly, just treat it as like a fun experience to learn. That's like the general like gist of it. That's what everyone should be joining hackathons for, right? Although like obviously there's a reward side to it, but it's more so for you to like learn and how to like collaborate in a group environment and how to like basically learn new things or collaborate and stuff like that. So yeah, you don't. I know like CS is like in terms of like the workforce, it's a really toxic field, and it can be. So, but yeah, if you're just starting out, like you don't need to feel like any of the stress, right? Like it comes with experience. So definitely just if you want to get into it, you can just check it out.
I feel like Vandy Hacks is pretty diverse. They have like all kinds of people there from all kinds of schools.
In fact, going back to what Austin was saying about the stress, in one way, yeah, there's a lot of stakes into learning CS, but also you'll find there's a lot of linear pathways you can take to learning a little bit more about CS, and you can just build knowledge over time. And as long as you keep going, then you'll be good.
There's actually a garbage ton of resources.
Yeah, true. Like it's like
I-
CS is like literally you can self-teach it at your own. Yeah.
I can link you actual pages of resources.
I will say one thing. We just said we're developing an AR app, and I've never used AR before until
Oh,
this
same.
weekend.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and
it's
that brings a
completely
good
new.
point. Like hackathons, they're like one of the best ways to start putting your feet into a new field, straight up. So it's like if you ever feel like scared about like knowing whether or not a certain field is right for you, just jump into a hackathon and you'll find out very quickly.
Brian,
Wait,
that's pretty interesting that someone got your password from your Git.
Brian, what?
I mean, like
They
he might
got-
have they might have like put in like their tokens and like pushed it or something. But you should to keep those in like a .env or something like that.
Maybe he, yeah.
Oh, no. No, throw it in a config file and put it in your git ignore.
Yeah. The API tokens, yeah, people can mess with that. So don't push that shit. you don't want people accessing your API or your app, whatever you call it.
Speaking of which, Hacktoberfest is going on right now. Go get a shirt.
Is it free?
Yes.
How do I do it?
Okay, so you sign up with DigitalOcean, and what happens is when you submit pull requests to open source repositories, it'll count towards your 4 pull requests. And once you successfully get 4 pull requests, and after a 7-day period they aren't marked as like spam or something stupid, then you get a shirt.
Sounds good.
Okay, since we're on the topic of merch, so we
That's cute.
since we're not having physical meetings, we can't really use our funds that the school gives us for
Food and stuff
food,
like that.
food and that kind of stuff. So we decided to move what our expenses would be into club merch.
Yeah.
I know that everyone is down for some free stuff.
Yeah.
So we will be once we have the board decided, we might that'll be probably the first task of our designers, and we'll definitely get opinion from the rest of the club to see what they would want on a shirt. So yeah, just wanted to let you guys know that.
Oh, by the way, for Hacktoberfest, pull requests against your own repositories count towards the shirt.
Okay, that's cool.
You want a shirt? Go do that. Yeah, it takes like 5 seconds.
What? Wait, that's so funny though. Like you can do it in your own repository. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
I fixed a typo in SaltStack and then just did that. They sent me the email saying I'm fine. It's great.
Okay, so just a heads up for everyone, the meeting is officially over. You guys are more than welcome to stick around and talk with us, hang with us. Again, we have our social night later tonight at 8. We hope to see you guys there. Yeah, so just wanted to state that.
Yeah, if you guys have any additional questions, you can just drop them in the chat or ask them right now if you want to, or in the Discord or whatever. Yeah, that's